Hi, my name is Carol Kaiser and I'm the speech pathologist at Gothenburg Public Schools, and I evaluated Lucius's language, and I gave him a test called the SELF, which is Clinical Evaluation of Language Fundamentals. And this test gives us both a uh, receptive language, which is like how we take in information and how we make sense of spoken language. And on that part of this assessment, Lucius scored an 88, and that's on a scale where 100 is considered average, so he's a little below average there. Expressive language was an 87, so very similar. And expressive language is how a person puts a message together so that it makes sense to the listener. And again, that was an 87, and that's on a scale of where 100 is considered average, so still a little below that. Overall, these two scores provide a core language score, so this would be his overall language score. And for Lucius, that was an 89. And again, that's on a scale where 100 is considered average. And I'm going to show you this little graphic here, and I'll probably send that somewhere. But you can see how his scores on the different subtests, you want them to be in this blue range, and he just had a couple outside of the blue range, but being inside of there. And then here's his overall language scores, and you can see that those are also within the blue range. This is his overall language, which was that 89. This one is an 88, which is the receptive one, and then the 87, that was the expressive language. Another thing that we've started doing here is gathering a little bit more information to see how his language scores impact him, or his language abilities impact him in his classrooms, because in school there's a lot of language to listen to. And so this is kind of a rubric, and again, I'll send this to the team, but I think just here visually you can see there's several categories that we look at, not just scores, but we also gathered some information. So this first column here, and we'll have it up for you, are his language scores, and you can see that's over here in the average range. So that would indicate that, he's doing okay. Over here on the other side of the black line is the below average, or where we would start to have some concerns about how things are impacting him in his classroom. So you can see his score on the actual test that I gave him is in the average range. I also read him a story, and he had to retell that story, and he gets a score based upon the information that he can retell in his own words, character names, setting, things that he probably would be asked to give, the main ideas, details in something in a classroom setting too. And you can see that in telling the story elements, he was in the 50 to 69% range, so that's in that below average range. The other ones, when I was asked, questions, and he had to just answer a question about the story, he did much better with that, and that was in the average range. When he could tell the characters, two or more of those, that was in the average range. This one is that he used complete sentences with all the grammar markers, that were in average range. Minor errors with grammar and usage, he had just a few of those. Sometimes the noun and verb didn't agree things. And then this is his overall ability score from the school psychologist's testing, so that is in the below average on this chart. And then we know that he has a documented medical disability, so that would fall over here, that he has medication at times. And then over here, this is some information that we took from teachers, like in terms of him paying attention or understanding things in the classroom. And you can see that the teacher category was in the below average in the classroom setting. But his language skills, understanding, direct observation of things, that was over here. And then in terms of other tests that he takes, his reading was below average, but language and math were in the above average, or in the average category. This is exhibiting limited response to intervention. So that would be like the services that we provide him now, and sometimes it's really hard to help Lucius because he doesn't have his papers, or he thinks he turned it in, or he may tell me he turned it in. If we dig through the backpack, then sometimes we turn up things that are kind of half done. Sometimes there's a whole 2 pages that aren't done, and he really can't explain, or he just says, well, I turned that in, that's what I got, and I don't really ever know if that's true, or if that's him talking, or he just doesn't want to do those things. It's kind of hard to know. And then, participates effectively with the modifications that, the more accommodations and the services that he gets. Kind of depends on the day and what he really is feeling like sometimes. There's days that I feel like he's really with me and focused and on target, and we can get quite a bit done. But it seems like for the last month or 2 months, it's just been, we spend more time digging for papers and talking about other things, and he's really not interested in trying to fix the grades and get papers done and get himself organized to do better in school. So in terms of this chart, it's kind of all over the board, because you want to look, and your hope is that either all the scores are in the below average, so he qualifies, or in the average, so you feel like things are going pretty well. And really for Lucius, as you can see just from the visual depiction there, it's kind of half and half. So again, I think he struggles. I think the focus and the attention to task, and the comments I got back from his teachers, many of those, especially in his English language arts classroom, was really a struggle for him to do the kind of tasks you would expect in there, like write a sequential story or a story that makes sense. Just paying attention to the directions in the classroom and being able to repeat those back or follow through on that. A lot of heavy language type tasks in his junior high classrooms, and that's probably going to continue. The team needs to take all that into account and decide, but I certainly would probably recommend that we follow through with services in the terms of speech language. And thank you. If you have other questions, I can surely call you or talk to you sometime.